Be the Talk, episode 135, featuring Nicole Edwards. Welcome to Be the Talk. We go behind the talk 7 days a week for tips and techniques to help you change the world. I'm Nathan Eckel, and a talker myself. I'm interviewing others who change the world with their talk. You can too, even if you've never given a talk before. Let's get started with today's show. We are live with Nicole Edwards. Nicole, are you ready to talk?
I'm ready to talk.
Nicole Edwards is a certified professional in learning and performance, or a CPLP. She is a speaker, facilitator, dedicated to empowering professionals to challenge their limiting perceptions that stand in the way of personal and professional success. Nicole Edwards, welcome to the talk.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So your talk was called In Your Eyes, is a branded talk. I got to give you the award for being the first certified professional in learning and performance. I used to be a fellow CPLP, and I let it run out a few years ago. So congratulations. I love having other learning and performance professionals in the talk. So please take us behind the talk. It's called In Your Eyes, which is everybody's favorite song by Peter Gabriel as well, got to say.
I just have to say I thank you, because not everybody knows that song. And that song is actually really special to me. It's a little cheesy, but it's just one of my childhood favorites. And so this talk just came about. It had a lot of professional stuff that I talked about in there, but honestly, it came from a lot of my personal experiences, and the fact of people can really have a misinterpretation and disagreement, even if something is right in front of them.
Well, absolutely. So, give us a little bit more depth on that. What kinds of disagreements did you overcome, and why is it so difficult when we get polarized like that, Nicole?
Sure, absolutely. So if you think about, like, even in your family, right, and you have maybe a parent that doesn't really subscribe to the profession that you really want to follow because it's in your heart, and they want you to be successful, and they think that given a certain path, you're going to be successful if you do that. And depending on how you are wired, that just might not be the case. And I feel as though this happens all the time. And that's just kind of a general example. For me in my personal life, this talk was actually born out of a situation that I had. I went on a date with a gentleman a few years ago, and I really thought it was just perfect. I feel like everything on paper, we had so many things in common. I mean, on and on. It was just like the perfect, I feel like, moment. And for whatever reason, it didn't turn out. It didn't turn out the way that I expected it to, or that I had hoped to. And it really challenged me to think about, how was I looking at the situation, and how could I have missed something? And just how could there have been such a dramatic difference in interpretation?
Well, and we're, as a society right now, this whole idea of having a certain perspective, a certain set of eyes versus another set of eyes, and just based on the backgrounds and our ethnicity and our gender and all of these different things. That is so highlighted right now, this ability that we have, if we really try, and if we really try to hear one another out without judgment, we can actually start to step in one another's shoes and see life through their eyes. So, I love some of the other talks that we've talked to Kat Morgan in one of the first 20 talks I think that we did, and it's all about just sitting down at the table, listening to one another, hearing one another out, and really valuing dialogue instead of polarized, argumentativeness in our culture right now. So tell us a little bit, what have you done? I mean, you're a learning professional, so you're trying to build bridges all the time. You're trying to heighten the awareness. I really appreciate that you've stepped over outside of only the institutional academic learning, and you're also in the personal growth and learning space, as I also am. And so it's all about building bridges and making those connections and coaching other people to a greater level of awareness. So can you throw us a couple of case studies and stories of what you've done, Nicole?
Sure. I just want to say I think we have a lot in common. I think I do the academic part and I've done all the things that I'm supposed to do, but I think my heart and my passion is really the personal development stuff. And it's really kind of helping people to unearth whatever it is within them so that they can be better, right? And so professionally, I have facilitated trainings all over. I've presented at conferences. I do still teach as an adjunct professor. And the people that I work with, we work in youth development. So people who work with children or adolescents in different capacities, whether it's mentorship, whether it's youth development thought leaders that are trying to change kind of the way that we approach working with kids outside of the school day. And so it's a little different than education. And what I have found over and over again across I have been doing this work is that I think at the heart of it all, we all want to make a difference in the life of the children of today and in general. And there's always been kind of a discrepancy or a fight on what is most important. Like, for some people, they really think that kids need to follow the rules and they need to do what they're told because you need to learn how to listen to adults so that you can be successful, right? Whereas others don't necessarily think that. They think that it should be more youth directed and that we should really honor where young people are coming from and their experiences so that we can help empower them in a different way. And so across the various years, I've really challenged myself to have the people to really dig deep into what they think themselves so that they can be more aware when they're then working with the children that they're working with. Because a lot of times what we do, we teach who we are. And we want people to do things the way we do them, and we want people to do things the way that we think is most important. And if we're going to be in the work of helping people in any type of human services, we really need to take ourselves out of it. One of the best pieces of advice I got probably 20 years ago at my first job, my boss sat me down and she said, Nicole, I'm so excited that you're here. This is going to be really tough work, but I want you to know something. This is not about you. And it really has stuck with me. And when she wasn't trying to she wasn't trying to squash me or anything. She just really wanted me to understand that everything that we do, really you have to meet people with their needs and where they're at. It's not about you.
Well, and it's a good reality check. I mean, as you're talking, Nicole, I keep thinking back to that whole CPLP training that we had. And that was really, that was about 10 years ago for me. It was probably several years ago for you as well. And it was like, I didn't know 10 years ago what coaching really was. I thought it was what you did for Little League for your kids or something. Right. No, it's not that. It's about finding the answers within people, their own answers in their own eyes, in their own language, so that they can have their own breakthrough on their own terms. And Absolutely. We also learned about, organizational development principles. I didn't learn that stuff in my own master's degree that I went through. I learned how to, manage projects and do some debugging and a little bit of coding and programming. And I learned all the little instructional theories out there, but learning about change management and how you have to say the same thing over and over, how it's way more important to have social peer-to-peer pressure and be able to organizationally change that and steer that and reward the right, outputs and steer the right inputs. Those things were absolutely huge. And you can't do those things as a CEO, as an executive, as a manager, as a leader, without seeing things through the other people's eyes to figure out what really is going on. So what are your thoughts on that? Those are a little bit more than my 2 cents, but I'm stepping in on your turf a little bit. But what would you say to that?
No, I love it. I feel like we could nerd out for a while on the whole CPLP and all of the kind of competencies that go into that. It was really a rigorous and eye-opening process. But everything you said is so accurate. I can see it just in everyday life. And, when I'm at the office, I can really see kind of the inner workings of what's going on, and that we are really coming to work with all of these different interpretations of what's really, what's going on. And it's not that one is wrong. You hear the old adage, it's the three sides to the truth, right? The one side, then the other side, then the actual truth. And this just goes on and on. I think it permeates every everything that we do. And even with, run-ins with strangers, I have this fascination with just meeting people that you just for some reason, you get them in the grocery store line and you strike up a conversation, and you have just kind of a moment of connection. I feel like those moments make me really just think about how we're just coming to the table with, like you said, past experiences that lead us up to that point.
Well, for sure. And I think that what I've observed, coming out of the whole training and development scene, teaching it, adjuncting as you are, just realizing how important to have the emotional intelligence and the social intelligence really is beginning to just far outpace all of the other measures of intelligence. I think it was Gardner that had all the multiple intelligences, but that social intrapersonal intelligence is absolutely up there. What's your take? I got to ask you this. I mean, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, we had, the different models that were a little bit top heavy, even at that point in time. And now we have social media and we have these iterative tools. From your perspective, how have you seen these tools become easier and faster to use, perhaps more natural, more organic in terms of everyday people being able to use powerful tools in order to teach other people through their eyes, but be able to train other people so that they can learn skills and be competent with a minimum of resistance? What's your take on that?
Well, I think a lot that has come about with kind of just micro learning. That learning doesn't have to be kind of like in a box set that you get handed and you watch from 1 to 10. I think it's those snippets and that translation to real world application. I think that's a big thing. Also, you mentioned the peer-to-peer,
the
framework.
The social learning. Yeah.
Yeah, that works a lot. There's a certain platform that I have used before that I kind of brought to the table in a lot of my work, where people can connect with each other, kind of like in a mini social media within the of the program. And so it's kind of like things that you might encounter during the day that you learned before, but you're chatting with each other. So it's more of that social aspect. A lot of another piece is really empowering people to be experts in their own right. And, training isn't telling, right? And that's from however many years ago, but it's really true. I feel like if we really let people as adults, especially, right? You're the expert of whatever your world looks like. Let's bring that to the table. Let's help you unpack it. Let's talk about it.
We've been enjoying a riveting conversation, especially if you're a trainer or a coach or a learning professional, with Nicole Edwards. Her talk is called In Your Eyes. In a moment, we'll be right back with the Blitz Round. People ask, how could I start a 7-day-a-week podcast? It's because of what I've learned from my mentors. Some of the best mentors in history aren't around anymore. They've left hours of one-on-one mentoring behind in their books. Each month at Classics on Tap, I record a new chapter from a classic business book to help you make a difference. Download your first chapter at classicsontap.com. And we're back with Nicole Edwards. It's time for the Blitz Round. I'm going to ask you a series of either-or questions related to the preparation and performance of your talk. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Well, hey, first question. Were you selected to speak, Nicole, or did you apply?
I applied.
Are you a memorizer, an improviser, or a blender?
I am usually one that makes bullet points and then I improvise. But for the talk, absolute memorization.
Absolute 100%.
100%.
How did that serve you?
Oh, it stretched me. It stretched me in ways that were surprising. I think I learned a lot in ways that I didn't expect. It worked out. It worked out.
It worked out. All right.
Yeah.
Are you a seasoned performer to this kind of stage or newer to the stage?
Well, I facilitated all around the country. I'm a Toastmaster, so I've done a lot of speaking, but nothing is quite like the TEDx stage.
No podium to hide behind.
No podium.
A little shorter. Well, that said, did you have nerves or were you in the zone or neither or both?
Oh, I have never been so nervous in my entire life. Once I walked on stage, I planted my feet it was done from then. I was in the zone after that.
Was it the planning? Was it the breathing? Was it the fact that you were physiologically in the right posture, that you didn't have to wait anymore? What was the key?
I think preparation was definitely key here. I think in other times I fly, just whatever comes to my spirit at that time. The preparation absolutely made it that I could relax into the talk. What's
a tip, technique, or a tool that helped you?
One thing that helped me a lot, or two things. The first thing is I jogged and did my talk. So I had kind of the cardiovascular thing going on while I did it. And the other thing, I shared with people that I trust and who I knew were going to give me, feedback that was going to make me better.
I love that idea of, jogging, getting the heart rate up, because it's going to be up.
Yes.
When you give that talk, the heart rate is going to be up. So why not run around, sprint around the track, or run around the neighborhood and try to talk, because you're going to understand what it's like. Talk universe. See, this is a training and development expert. What do you call that? That's the performance context instead of the training context. Don't make the training context, air conditioning in your room. No, make it the performance context, which is a flashlight in your face, run around the block, get your heart rate up, and then you will be experiencing much closer to the conditions of the performance. A little geek talk right there. What was the biggest challenge of your talk, Nicole?
I think the challenge was I was given 9 minutes and I was told that you have to adhere to the 9 minutes. So a lot of it got cut out. I had some funny stories that I wanted to add in. I wanted to add the story about the date. It didn't get in it.
Oh, well, hey, that's the cut for time question. I actually sprinted over that. Let's go back to the cut for time. What was the most painful one for you to cut out? Was it the date or was it something else?
I had this whole funny thing I was going to do. I was going to simulate Tinder exchange and have
go back. Was that you said a Tinder exchange? We slowed down a little bit.
Okay. Yeah.
You were going to simulate a Tinder exchange.
Yes. And
I
had Ryan Gosling sit in as my match, and I had this whole spiel and it didn't go.
Well, that's why we have BeTheTalk. We can enjoy and appreciate some of that stuff. Hey, it's a performance. So what was the most unexpected, strange, or just plain weird thing that happened during or right before your talk, Nicole?
Okay, so right before the talk, for those of you who have not been to a TED event, there's hosts that kind of introduce you as a speaker, and they're kind of they're the MCs of the day. Well, the MCs, right before my talk, they stole the line. They thought they were being helpful, stole a line from my talk and kind of unleashed my big thing. So right before I walked on stage, I had already gotten my big moment taken away. They
outed your moment right before you're on stage.
Yes.
Oh, my word.
They outed my moment.
Okay. So if you are an organizer, or if you are an MC, or if you are a speaker and maybe it's dress rehearsal time and you're wondering, that something like that might happen to you, steer them over to BeTheTalk, the interview with Andrew Munns about being an MC. And that's where we talk about some of this stuff. Do not, I hate to be so directive, but do not steal the thunder of the person coming out to speak. So how did you recoup for that? That's really the question. Yeah.
What I had a mental thought, the taped version of the talk, no one's going to see that. So the only people that know that happened were the people that were sitting in the audience live that day. And once, thank God, I got that note in my head and I just went. When I watched the talk back, I can see the exact moment of when it all came. Okay, how am I going to just keep going? Then no one knows. And so I just had to just know that it wasn't the final version with people that were going to introduce me.
Now that's super important. And at this phase in the interview, I normally wouldn't digress about this, but I will, because there are two different audiences. There's the live audience in the room that day that Nicole's talking about. You got that live audience, and the MC says something, hey, whoop, here it is. And, and that was your big line. And unfortunately, in Nicole's case, And what Nicole wisely did is realized, hey, that's the current audience in the room. That's my current environment. But there's a whole other performance environment, which is the YouTube audience, and they don't understand any of it. They're not going to see any of that. So therefore, I'm going to do the unnatural thing of just going on and pretending I didn't hear that and nobody else did. And I'm going to play to the video. And that's what you did. And that helped you give just a killer talk right there. And that's something that some of us, myself included, I've tried to, I'll just say this, I've tried to compromise and try to play to both. And I was even advised to play to both, but really you do the best when you play to the YouTube footage. You really do, because you're going to be rambling a lot less. You're going to be a lot shorter. You're going to, and it's good to be a little bit spontaneous. My talk needed some of that, but I was just it was the difference between a 9 or an 8-minute talk and a 12-minute talk for me. And so I just think that's absolutely huge. We've been having a really fun conversation with Nicole Edwards. Her talk is called In Your Eyes. If you want to see that talk, you can type it into YouTube, or you can go to our show notes page at BeTheTalk.com. As well as if you want to connect with Nicole yourself, we're going to have a link so that you can connect to her profile on LinkedIn. And we are looking forward in just a moment to coming back to Nicole for the final word of advice. Everyone wants to change the world, but not everyone knows the first step. Before you can change the world with your talk, it has to be selected. So grab the templates, timelines, and tools that I use to get my talk selected at BeTheTalk.com. And we're back with Nicole Edwards for the final word of advice for Talk Universe.
Final word of advice. If you ever find yourself in a disagreement with anyone, I challenge you to lean in, open your eyes. The power is in your eyes.
Nicole, thank you for coming on Be the Talk and sharing your wisdom today with Talk Universe.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, Nathan.
Thanks for listening to Be the Talk. For tips and resources to help you change the world, go to BeTheTalk.com. See you tomorrow.